Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back to my channel. It really has been a while, but I did tell you that I would show you a thought that I had for the shoulder pads that I got in a second-hand bag from Salvation Army. And so these are a couple of them that I made, and it's been a while, so I'm not really sure with all the moving around with the flood. I don't know where I put the rest of them. So I'm not going to actually do one for you, but I'm going to show you my thoughts behind them. So you can make them kind of like an epaulette, like a pin-on patch, and put it like on the shoulder of a jacket or of the shoulder of your shirt. But what I like to do with my patches is I like to make them pin on. So I put an eyelet in each corner, and then I use a matching pin. You can use bulb pins, or I even use just colored regular safety pins, not this big, and if you don't have colored ones, if you have alcohol ink, you can color them with alcohol ink. And then you can just pin them on and take them off, and they don't have to go in the wash. But if you don't want them to stick over the edge of the shoulder, and I think that's what they're called, is epaulettes. I don't know, like on army uniforms or whatever. But you can put them all the way up, like next to the neck, so that just the little fringy part sticks off. And I just covered it with fabric, and then I used a back stitch to stitch this pretty lace on. And I did not buy this lace at the craft store. I bought a curtain. They had this lace across the top valance or whatever. And I just took this off. I got like a ton of it. And by just buying that curtain, I got the curtain at the Salvation Army. I think I paid just $1 or $2 for it. And then I wound up also with a huge piece of sheer that's like 15 feet long or something and 7 feet tall, well, wide, whatever. So, and I also put a piece on the back. I did a blanket stitch around the edge, and then this is the back stitch from stitching on this. And when I stitched this one on, I stitched it on before I put the backing on it. And so the first side, I just went ahead and folded it over and sewed it on with the blanket stitch. No, I folded it over, and then I went ahead and I put the back piece on. And then that one I just kind of folded under as I was doing the blanket stitch, so that I didn't have any raw edges. But you don't have to do that. I like raw edges sometimes. Anyways, so that was my thought with these. They also could sit behind, like if you have a blouse, you can pin them on the inside of your blouse, and then the blouse would be like that, and you would have this beautiful behind it. But it wouldn't be uncomfortable because it's soft. You could use it to hang it on the side of your purse and just pin it on. You can sew them on too. I just like to do the pin on thing. And then here's one that's just patchwork. And on this one, I think I might turn it into a needle book. But again, you could use it the same way. This is very bright. Like I would not use this on my clothing, maybe my purse. But if you wanted to knock it back a little bit, just a little bit of lace, and put some lace on there, and that would make it not so in your face color wise. And you could do like layers, so you'd have a piece down here and a piece up here, so that the whole thing was kind of covered, but you would still see, if you looked, you would see everything beneath, but much more muted. So that was my thought. And like for a needle book, you can just fold them in half, decorate them, fold them in half, and then sew in one more piece of like felt that's shaped the same way. Put a piece of felt on the inside and sew that on, and then cut a piece like this and sew it right down the middle so that you have like a booklet, and you can put your needles in there. Excuse me. You could also like fold it a couple of times or roll it up and use it as a pin cushion. So here's my thought on pin cushions. I've always made pin cushions by making a big wad of stuffing and stuffing it into a little cup or something like that. The problem with that is like my pin cushion has always been very kind of deep. Well, it's great for pins, so long as they have a decent sized head on them. But if you're putting your needles in there too, which I do, like this. So this has got pins and needles in it. This is my needle book. And so this is what I was saying, put an extra piece, I haven't even sewn this in yet, put an extra piece of felt on the inside of this when you fold it in half so that when you open it up, you've got a place to put your needles. But also you can still make it into a needle book like that, or even just make it into, put your felt here, just one layer. Just put it on there, sew it on there so you can stick your needles in there so that you have them to carry with you. But then roll it like this and put a little snap on it. You know, everybody asks, what do you do with the old-fashioned snaps or the old-fashioned hook and eye? Use that hook and eye and hook it right on there, maybe in a couple of places. And then you can use it as your pin cushion. And you'll have your needles in there. They really don't get in the way. Very rarely. Now, I think I have all my needles out of here because I pulled out a bunch and gave them to my daughter. But I had my needles in here, and very rarely did I ever hit a needle when I was putting. And this has just a little bit of cushion to this pin cushion here. I just stuffed a little bit inside the cover. And so now I have a needle book and I have a pin cushion, but that's also where I stick my needles. And but the problem when you have the deep ones is your needles, when you put them in there, they wind up going all the way through, and now they're stuck inside whatever you use to make your pin cushion. You know, they're in that cup. They're down in there. They're underneath the fabric. And the only way to get them out is to tear the whole thing apart, to take the needles out. And everybody says, well, I leave my thread in there. Yeah, I leave my thread in there a lot too. And I also take it out a lot. I run out. There's hardly nothing left. There's a little tiny bit left, and it still gets pushed down into the center of my pin cushion. So whenever you make a pin cushion, remember, make a pin cushion fairly flat so that a needle cannot push all the way through and get buried underneath whatever you put on the top of your pin cushion. You want it to be able to, if you push that needle all the way through, you want it to stop before it, or come out the other side. That's even fine if you don't put something solid under it. I usually have something solid at the bottom. But you just don't want your pin cushion to be super deep that you lose your needles in there. Needles aren't cheap, and that's a really easy way to lose your needles. So that's my thought on pin cushions. But you could even use one of these, make it into a needle book, and then you could roll it up because that will make it a nice thickness. You're not going to lose any needles in there. And it doesn't have a solid bottom, but you can use that to put your pins in, to put your needles in. And when you're done with whatever you're doing, or you want to take this somewhere, unsnap it, unroll it, stick all of your pins and needles inside here, fold it back up, roll it back up, snap it back shut, and now they're all inside. So that's another idea that you could do with these that we don't know what to do with. You can use them to stuff anything. But that was my thought was to kind of do like a shoulder epaulette, like that would be on the outside of a jacket or something. Might really be kind of cute. And I just, like with this, I think it was because I had this too, and that's kind of what made me think of it. But again, pin on patches, put in an eyelet, and then you can pin it on anything. So that was my thought for those, and I told you I'd come back and tell you about them. So I did. Now I'm going to show you what I've been up to. Oh, I just don't have much time in the mornings, and so I just do a little bit here and there. And by the time I get home from work at night, I really don't have any time. I'm home, I'm done, I'm tired. So, but I saw Jerry Bellini make prosperity hens, and I thought they were so cute, so I had to make some. So here's my first one that I made, and to hang it on my door. And so there it is. And I put a tassel at the bottom, but the more I looked at them, everybody, when they make the whole chain like that, they put a bell at the bottom. So I went ahead and I put a bell inside of my tassel. And this tassel was cut off of something. I got a whole bag of them at a secondhand store. So I just took my needle, I tied my thread around my bell, took the needle and stuck it right up through the center through this bead, and then just started stringing all of my prosperity hens together. I got some cheap beads at my craft store, but they look very pretty. The thing about plastic beads, people say, oh, I don't want to use plastic beads. You want to use plastic beads if they look nice. And these ones really do look nice. They don't look super cheap. But the thing is, you want the lightness to them. You don't want something that is super heavy. And that's the nice thing about now the new acrylic beads is a lot of them really do. They don't look childish, they don't look cheap, and they really make your project a whole lot lighter. So, and then also, and I apologize to whoever I saw this from. I saw someone making these stuffed beads, and so I made those. Jerry Bellini put yo-yos between her birds, but I really wanted beads, and I wanted good size beads. And they're hard to kind of find. You find a lot of big wooden beads, and you can paint them with fingernail polish to make them look pretty, but I really didn't want that. So I made some of my own little homemade beads, and that's just kind of sew a circle like a yo-yo, like you would sew a yo-yo, then you stuff it and then sew it shut. And then I just went ahead and put beads in there, and you kind of pull it tight so that it kind of like makes little indentations and everything. And then when you're all done, you kind of roll it in your hands, and it rounds it back up again, because it's a nice tight, you make it really tight by putting those little stitches. This one just has the stitches in it. It doesn't have any beads on it. And because I like the way they look like that too. And so that is, and again, these are plastic beads, but I like the way they look. And then I just have a little hook to hook it on the door of my art room. So that's what I've been up to, is making prosperity hens. And I showed my daughter how to make them. So, and when Jerry showed you how to make them, she made them in 2 different colors. So, and then I saw some people that were sewing regular fabric instead of felt. These are all felt. And so I got to thinking, and I saw someone who made it with a square of fabric, and I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not, but I do. And it's a whole lot easier. So remember, I said I don't have a lot of time. This is my ironing towel, so don't look at it. It's not the nicest looking towel, but it's stained that way because you never know what I iron on it. So anyways, but these are so simple. I think I made mine 4.5 inches. You can make them any size. You know, my squares are 4.5 inches, but you can make them any size that you want to. And then all you need is some thread. I'm using a crochet thread, and but you can use any, you know, just even regular thread. So what I did was I took a strip of fabric and I tore it at 4.5 inches, and then I tore for every 4.5 inches to make my squares. That way I got my grungy edge. I saw someone that did them where they sewed them inside out and then turned them right side out, and then they were okay, but I really like the looks of the fringy on the edge of this, and it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier than sewing them with a sewing machine and turning them right side out and then stuffing them, whatever. But I like the looks of this, so that's another big reason. So anyways, and like these ones like have a bit of a V to them. So, and they're cut that way. So these ones, when you sew a square, they're not really like that. But if you just do like that, they get that V in them, and then that makes them look the same as the others. So I'm going to show you how I did this really quick. And then also, we'll come back and we'll do the beads. I have a bunch of beads here too that I'm going to use for those. When I cut out any different fabrics or whatever, all my little tiny cutoffs, I save them, and I just roll them and kind of wad them up and sew through them and around them, and to make other little beads, because these beads can also be used between the birds. And then I have a bunch of the stuffed beads here that I haven't, these 2 I guess have been sewn with the little stitches. The rest of them are still waiting for beads or stitches to tighten them up. But we'll do the beads another day so that this doesn't wind up being really, really long. But this is so simple. Cut yourself a 4.5 by 4.5 inch square. And really, you can do any size you want to. If you want them smaller, cut your square smaller. And if you want them larger, then cut your square larger. And so these are little rubbers that I have, that I got at the recycle store back when we used to have the recycle store. And these work really well to grab the needle and to pull the needle if it gets stuck. And so that's what those are sitting there for. This one has got the regular edge here. I'm not going to worry about that. I thought about, well, maybe I'll cut that off and tear it. But to tear something, you need a little bit of room, and I really didn't want to waste that fabric, and so I thought I'm just going to leave it. It won't hurt anything. So, and then for the beaks, I use, even on these ones, I use felt. I've seen people like fold up a little tiny square and stick it in there and it kind of comes out as a point. I like the felt. So, like, these are just little tiny pieces of felt. These are just my scraps. And even these ones will make a beak. So you can keep your scraps, and then whatever you don't, whatever gets too small and you can't use, you can roll them into a felt bead. So I don't know why. That's just something that I enjoy doing in the evening. Just sitting in my chair is just like wadding up the fabric and sewing it, and it comes out to be a bead, and it feels like I've accomplished something without really having to do much. So I'll use that one. I like to try and use contrasting colors for their beaks and make them all different colors, so that when you string them together, or if you just leave them separate, you don't have to string them together. I just like the contrast. So I am going to, this is going to wind up sitting in here. So I want it to stick out a way. So I'm going to kind of cut it on an angle and give myself a beak that's about that long, so that I also have some inside to sew. So I'm just going to, it's already kind of cut on an angle, so I'm just going to go like that. And the wide part I will sew inside right there. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to just come up just about 1/4 of an inch in so that I can hide my knot right in there. Okay, and so this is just folded in half. And if it's not perfect, because when you rip them, they're straight, but they get a little bit, they might stretch a little this way or that way. And then if you iron them like that, that's just how they are. So if they're not perfectly in line with each other, I don't mind all of that little bit of imperfection. Nowadays, really, as far as I'm concerned, it makes things look homemade. So I came up through there right in the fold, and now I am just going to start stitching. I'm going to, because this is where my knot's at, I'm going to put my beak on the other side. Just so that I can kind of get started. Also, a lot of times I will fold a bunch of them in half like this and stick a pin in the middle. And then I can just grab them and start sewing them. And all I'm doing is, this is just a running stitch, just in and out and in and out. I'm going to grab this corner up here to pull this through. And if you don't do too many stitches, normally you won't have a problem. If you try and do like the whole side, sometimes it will kind of want to get knotted up, or it just really won't want to pull through. And so you're just going to keep going. I don't like to leave, at the first couple of times I left the point open at the bottom when I was sewing these ones like this, so that to stuff it. And then I didn't really care for trying to sew the point together at the bottom. So I go ahead and I leave part of the second side open. So I just keep on sewing, and this is really so simple. I should have looked at what the time was when we started this, because this will just show you how easy it is. And again, it's just a running stitch in about 1/4 of an inch. You just want to make sure you're past wherever your little fringe is, so that you actually are catching solid fabric. And whoops, got a little bit of a kink right there, so we're going to just get that out. Here we go. And when it really catches like that, find out like where it's catching. Is it just like hard to pull, or is there a little bit of a knot? Because you don't want to make that so hard that it's too hard to get out. And so I'm going to go that far. So I'm right to here, and I still have a little ways to go, but I need to stuff it. And I also need the beak. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just go back inside here. Actually, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to take a bit of a stitch, but only through this top layer. Like that, so that my thread is on the inside right here. I have this There we go. Okay, so now my thread is on the inside. I'm going to just kind of stitch around that last, right here where this last stitch went through. I'm just going to go under that. And then catch this loop to make a knot. Okay, and then straighten that back out again. And you want to make sure whenever you're like pulling to make knots and stuff, don't let it cinch up so much, like don't let your thread get too short. Make sure that you hold that so that it doesn't cinch up. And so there we go. That one is done. I've got a little knot in there. It's going to hold right there. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to leave some of this yarn here, thread, whatever it is, so that I can finish sewing it. So I'm going to leave maybe, let's say, this much. And I'm going to cut this off so that that's there for later. It's going to start exactly where it ended. Now I'm going to take this bit that I have left. And if you don't have much left at this point right here, just take your needle off. But I have a lot of this. I never do know. I don't judge it well as how much I need. All right, so there we go. And now I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the other side. I'm going to come up about 1/4 of an inch into the fold. Pull that up there. Just like that. And then again, just a running stitch, which is just in and out, in. Make sure you go all the way through, come out all the way through. Just a little bit there. Now this is where our beak is going to go. And remember, we are going to leave a hole here for stuffing. So I actually might have made this one come up just a little bit far, but that will still work out just fine. Alrighty, so I'm just sticking this in here. It's back there far enough so now when I stitch it, I'm going to catch that felt right there. So I'm just going to go in. And when I'm doing the beak, I do just like one stitch. I don't do the running stitch like in and out like a long time. I just go in and out so that I can feel it and tell that I'm catching that felt, because there's not much of it there. So it's just those 2 stitches are the only ones that are catching this beak. So you want to make sure that they really are catching it. Okay, so now I'm this far and I have a hole that is this big, and that's plenty of big to get my stuffing in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come between the 2 layers, and I'm going to come up about where I think I want my eye to be. Say, maybe right about there's where the eye is going to be. I'm bringing that needle back up just that side. Okay, and now I'm going to do a French knot. And a French knot is just, you take your needle down close to your fabric and you wrap around it however many times. I've been doing mine at 5. I'm not the best person for a French knot, but that's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It also depends on like how thick your thread is. And then you're going to put the point of your needle right back down through there. Push those wraps down. You're still holding this piece that you wrapped around there. Okay. And now you're going to hold the wrap, hold the thread, and push this through. Kind of look as to where it's coming through, because we're going to make another French knot. Oops, sorry. Watch where it's coming through. We're going to make a French knot on this side too. And with that being okay to have the eye, yep, I think that's going to be good. You never see both sides at the same time. So if they're not even completely even, that's okay. And then you just keep pulling. Don't let go till you get right there, and then let go. And so there is your eye. And if you want to, like you can put a little maybe black bead or a little white bead in there, or you can just completely sew that on, stop right there, put your knot. you know, knot the thread, stuff your thing, and then finish sewing it up. And then you can just use a bead for the face. You don't have to do a French knot. I like to do a French knot because so long as I've got my thread and I've got my fabric, I can make as many as I want to. Even if I don't have the beak, excuse me, I can always take the beak, and just because I've got a 1/4 of an inch here, I could fold this back after it's completely done and sew those beaks on, but they're much sturdier if they're going through and getting caught back here. And usually, a lot of times, even my French knot winds up going through that part of the beak, so that even holds it even more. So we're going to do, the biggest thing is, remember how many wraps you do. If you do 5, do 5 on both sides, or if you do 3, do 3 on both sides. If you have a really thick thread, then you'll have less wraps because it will be, you know, too big. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'm going to see where it's coming out right here. So I'm going to just go kind of right next to that. Push that down a little bit, holding this thread. Now, this one's a little trickier because on this one, I'm going to come back out, not catching this fabric over here. I'm going to come back out between the two. And I did catch the fabric right there, but I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll see how bad it looks. I keep getting this extra one caught. Okay, so there is that one. Doesn't look too bad. And let's see what, okay, see, my needle came through right here when I was trying to get between the 2 layers. And so it caught it right there, but it doesn't, with all of this other red here, it doesn't show up. It doesn't really make a difference, so I'm okay. See, can you see that little tiny stitch right there? So I was coming back through from the other side. I accidentally caught this piece of fabric, and you don't want to catch this side. So now, here's a bird. And all we're going to do is stuff it, and I'm going to bring any stuffing. Hold on a second, it's right here. Okay, and I have a lot of old batting that my mom had. My mom made quilts, so if you have batting, you can use that. I've got stuffing that I've picked up at secondhand stores. I usually try and open the bag to make sure it doesn't smell funny, but I don't buy it at the store. You know, the biggest thing is that if you buy things at the secondhand store, it's not going to cost you a whole ton. It makes things more enjoyable. I'm going to just use a chopstick or something, dowel. But, you know, to enjoy your crafting, you don't want to spend a whole ton of money on it. That just makes it not fun anymore. So remember to try and, keep your eyes out at, and I like to go to like the Salvation Army. They have like half off and 75% off different color tags each week. Ours does, and not necessarily everybody's does, but still, secondhand is more than likely going to be cheaper than store-bought. So, but always remember to check that too. Some places that call themselves antique stores are good, and some places that call themselves antique stores charge you way too much money for something that, unless it's super, super special and sentimental to you, there's no point in spending that kind of money. So you're just going to stuff it up into the tail, stuff it down here, and then lastly, we need to get some up here by the eye, and then we're just going to finish sewing it shut, and this one's done. Like I said, I should have checked the time because I don't know what time I started this, but it really does not take a super long time. And now you got to kind of go around the eye because we went all the way through. So to get up to this corner here, you're going to go around behind your French knots. And usually, that makes the whole thing puffy. Even though you're not putting any out here, it still makes it puffy out there. Not sure what that... Somehow I got a stitch there. Not even sure where it came from. Oh, and you know what I didn't do? Okay, after we put that French knot in, well, and actually I do usually do this after I stuff it because I like to go through the stuffing. Then I just go around one of those stitches. I'm sorry if I got out of film. Or out of camera. I haven't done this in such a long time. Okay, I'm going around one of those stitches, making a knot. Now this one I want to cut off. I don't like cutting things right where my knot is. So what I like to do is I like to go through the stuffing, because the stuffing kind of holds on to it. I just kind of like weave back and forth through the stuffing a little bit and come out anywhere. There we go. And then I give it just, you can cut it flush, but you don't want to have a little bit of fuzzy sticking out. So if you pull it just a little bit and then cut it flush, see you got just a little bit sticking out right there. But because we pulled it, when we pull back, that disappeared. And now that's inside there. And it's not like it's going to, if we cut it right next to the knot's not going to come undone real easy. So there we go. That looks like enough stuffing to me. So I need to re-thread this piece here. And you can do this. I don't have it, you know, a lot of times I'll have stuff just sew down. I do it all exactly the same way every single time because I've done it so much. But, you know, these ones I'll get a couple done and then I don't get to do it for a while and get a couple. So, you know, the whole like leave a little bit here. It is what I have been doing, but like right now, I feel like I'm fumbling with this last part here. And sometimes I still do, even when I'm making them, because I haven't done it in a while. And so then it's kind of like, exactly how did I do that? So we're just going to close up the spot that we stuffed it through. Just like that. And then, again, whoops, I unthreaded it. I definitely don't want to just cut that off because all I did was make a couple stitches. It will definitely come out and open that hole back up again where we stuffed it. So we definitely need a knot. All right, so again, I'm going to just go between the two pieces of fabric so that I can make my knot inside that little 1/4 of an inch there. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to go back through here and I'm going to catch a stitch and then go through the loop, pull it tight to make a knot. I unthreaded this again. I don't want to cut it next to my knot, so I'm going to thread it up again. Whoop. And then just go between those two. Kind of catch my stuffing, but not my fabric. Take that. There we go. Take that yarn, pull it through there. Pull it just a little extra. Snip it. You've got that little tail sticking right there. But we're just going to stretch it back to where it belongs, and it goes into the stuffing. And there we go. Now the original one that I saw did not have any wings, did not have any like fuzzy tails or bumps on the combs here. I should know that. Our kids raised chickens for fair. There's no comb, there's no fluffy tail, but you can do whatever you want. I did one here that I tried just doing a whip stitch around like this when I was doing 2 different colors together. I really didn't like it. So then I took this yarn and I just went underneath each of the stitches to kind of, I don't know, make it look a little prettier. And then, well, that was okay, but it was only on one side. So then I went ahead and I did it on the other side and just went under all of those whip stitches and left part of it hang out here. So this little one's got a tail, and actually quite a pretty tail. But that's not what I normally do. But you could do that if you want to. You can just take even a few of them, just kind of catch them up in here, and let them just hang off the edge. You can do it before you sew it together. You can fold it in half and put it inside the fold before you start stitching so that it's out here but sewn into. So, but that is how I have been making now my little prosperity hens. And I just really think that they're cute. And I'm going to just keep making them. I'm going to make them, and I'm going to make the little balls and beads, I guess I should say. We're going to call them beads because we're going to string them like beads. And so that's what I've been doing. And I can even like, well, I could do it like on my lunch hour at work. I don't, because I usually walk down to the Salvation Army and see what they've got, what they've got for 75% off there. But yeah, I think that really cute. And I think putting them in a string of 3 would be nice. I like, we all like the uneven numbers. I likes an uneven number more than an even number. It's not so stark. But I think even a 3, a set of 3 would be really nice. Maybe put the light one in the middle, but a set of 3 with some beads between it. I think that would be really nice. And a bell on the bottom. And while I've got the little tassels, I'm going to keep using those. But this is just some fabric that my mom had left over, that I had left over from my mom. This is a piece of fabric that just came in some fabric from the Salvation Army. This is a vintage sheet that I got at the Salvation Army. So the thing is that you don't have to go buy a bunch of fabric in order to do these things. Look at old clothes, look at old sheets, pillowcases. If you go to the Salvation Army, and pillowcases are really cheap, because a pillowcase, that's a lot of fabric. A sheet is a whole lot of fabric, but even a pillowcase is a lot of fabric. So go buy 3 different pillowcases that look a little bit different. Or buy some pillowcases and stain them with something. Stain them with some paint or whatever. Now, some things, if you stain the fabric and then you wash it, if it wasn't fabric paint, it's going to come out. But you're not going to wash these. So, if you stain them and, let them get dry really well and then use them as fabric, it's okay. So it doesn't have to be fabric paint to do it. So, and I'll just show you a couple other things that I've been doing. I think that this was like Christine. Her name is Christine. She was cutting some bunnies like this. She wasn't doing stuffed bunnies. She cut them out of a quilt, an old quilt. And was like, not exactly sure what she was doing with them. But anyways, she was cutting them out. I think she was putting them on a strip of fabric. And then she also made a basket out of the negative of this, the outline where she cut them out, and she used that to make a basket. It was really cute, but I liked the shape of it, and I thought those are really cute. So I just drew my own. So it's not exactly like hers, but it's close. And so I made some little bunnies because I thought, well, Easter's coming. They might make a cute little Easter thing, and then I just sewed a pom-pom on them. And these ones I did use beads instead of a French knot for their eyes. And so I thought that they turned out really cute. So I was having fun making those. I used to do like a lot of mixed media. And I really didn't do much fabric at all. But lately I have really been interested in fabric. I've been watching Sonia Steptoe. We've known each other, I think, since we both started here years ago. Like 15 years ago, or I don't even know how long it's been. But she's been doing so much of the patchwork and everything. It's so cool. And of course, then if you're watching anyone sew, then other sewing things come up. So then I've seen a lot of sewing things, and I just have to try them. But if you like the patchwork, things like this, go watch Sonia's channel, because she does the most beautiful crazy patchwork and decorated purses and stuff. So, and then I saw in one of my kids' books, they had some little outlines of animals. And so I made a camel, and I think he turned out really cute. He does have a French knot for eyes, and then I just put some little ears on him, and a little tail out of some really like heavy, kind of like a jute or something. But I like him a lot. But these ones could be strung up. They could just be given like this. You can just have them sitting around because they're cute. Or you can do like a rabbit and a camel and a bird and, like do all different sorts of things, kind of like a totem pole. So, the sky's the limit. And to me, they're simple enough that I can get them done. I feel like I've accomplished something. Like when I'm working on my journals, which I haven't done in quite a long time now, the thing is that they do take a really long time. It can take 6 months to a year to finish a journal. And that's, like working on it just so. But, they do really take forever. These ones, when you get one piece done, if you're going to make a totem, you're not done, but you have this piece done. And it's so cute. It's just so fun. I have them sitting around here and, I just really have been like having a blast playing around with these. So there's a few more outlines in this kid's book. And so I am going to go through and very possibly make some more if I can find some that I like. But I think that these turn out really cute. And I like the way they look when they're all strung up. That is really awesome. So just remember, just like use what you have. Sweaters would work good for this, or t-shirt material would work good for this, wherever you're using felt. You can use anything that you want to, really. It doesn't have to be what everybody else is using. Like I said, I saw a lot of people do it with the felt and 2 different colors. And that's even where the bunnies came from, even the 2 different colors. I did them with felt in 2 colors. And, but then when I saw somebody use a regular fabric, but they didn't do it like this, they did it more sewn. They turned it inside out, and they put a comb on it, and they put a tail on it, and they put wings on it, and it wasn't the same as what I had seen. And what I really like the looks of these, even though they are easier. It's not just because they're easier, it's just because I like the way they look. And I like the homemade beads, and I think it looks so cute that the whole thing is homemade. And anybody can do it. Really, anybody can do this. So just remember that. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I have not answered comments in a really long time because I have really just been away from YouTube, other than just watching a couple videos at night when I go to bed. But I'm going to try and get back to being back once a week, if I can. Some of them might just be haul videos. I have a haul video to show you here that I just got because I've been, I don't crochet, so I don't have a lot of this crochet threads. And so I've been watching for those at the Salvation Army, and I got a really good deal on those. But so I'll come back and show you some of the things I got there and what I used them for, or why I got them. Sometimes I don't know why I got them, but thank you very much for stopping by. I have missed all of you. Thank all of you that have been sending comments saying, are you there? Are you okay? I really am, but I only know how to answer on my computer, on my laptop. I just don't ever come home and open that up. By the time I get home, I'm just tired. And in the morning, I like to do a little something before I go to work. And I really don't have any time then either. So, but I enjoy working. I'm glad I'm back to work. That it has been good. And, so I will get back to doing more videos after I retire. But I'm going to try and make sure that I do a video a week just so that I'm here and, just so I can say hey. And so y'all can say hey back. Thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. And I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.